Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat, our TNA show for the week. My name is George Coles. This is my tag team partner, Rosie.
Am I the superhero in training?
You're the shit.
I always thought I was the shit. Gary Rhodes, everybody.
And the first thing we're going to talk about in the beginning segment for TNA Impact this week was they did a recap of the happenings last week, and it brought out Taz with Aces and Eights, somewhat explaining why he did what he did.
You know, this segment reminded me how good of a promo cutter Taz was.
Yes.
I really liked the way he cut it, and I think he's, something that the group needed.
He's a really good mouthpiece for them, because up to this point, they haven't had one, and now they've added two with him and Anderson.
Yes. I like Devon and all, but he's never really been the strong talker that Bubba was back in the day, and really Bubba was back in the day.
And I liked it. He said his purpose. He did say that there is a higher power, Vince McMahon.
Vince Russo?
It's Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon's always a higher power. Didn't you watch the Attitude Era?
I did watch the Attitude Era.
Okay then. And coming off of that, our first match of the night was a Knockouts match. We had Velvet Sky versus Tara.
Solid match. I really liked it. I'm very high on Velvet, so...
I liked it. I enjoyed it. I liked the finish. It left it open for a rematch, which is always good in my opinion. I think these two worked well together. Their Divas or Knockouts division is really sizing up to be formidable. Definitely better than the Knockouts Divas that we get on the other TV show.
And it was really solid. I really liked it. Like you said, I liked the outcome of the match. I actually do like Tara and Jessie together. She's really helping Jessie's career out quite a bit. She's kind of like the Sherry of today.
There you go. Now, coming off of that, we had another in-ring segment. This episode was really heavy on promos and segments.
Yes.
And we got Joseph Park talking about next week's going to be open fight night. He's going to take a week and do all his research, and next week he's calling out the first person since he's been trained as a wrestler on Impact.
We'll see how it goes. I don't know. I'm really high on the new Joseph Park. He couldn't be abyss for the rest of his career, So, this gives him something else to fall back on.
It lets him heal up all the injuries he's had. There are certain things you expect with Abyss. Every now and again you expect the thumbtacks, you expect the fire, you expect the barbed wire. So, that takes a toll on your career. Look at a guy like Sabu, who, is basically hobbled from all the crap that he did back in the day. Or you look at a guy like Rob Van Dam that sprinkled in some other elements and has still going on, still going strong.
Yeah.
Which leads us to the next match.
Nice segue.
Rob Van Dam and Christian York versus Zema Ion and Kenny King.
I really like Kenny King and Zema Ion. I like the pairing of these two.
Yes. Two heels with a common cause and common enemies. I thought that they were, as a team, they work well. As a team, they have similar characters, and that makes for a good team, in my opinion. At least in this case, for a hodgepodge team, basically they both want to be the X Division champion. And Rob Van Dam is currently the X Division champion. It seems that they're pushing Christian York as the #1 contender for it. And I like the ending where Kenny King hits a move and Zema Ion steals a pin. Good heel move.
Classic heel.
Now, speaking of a classic heel, got a classic heel that's recently turned face. Bully Ray coming out to the ring with his wife, Brooke Hogan.
Kayfabe.
They start talking about the events of last week, and if you didn't see it, Taz turned on Bully Ray and joined Aces and Eights laid waste to the whole wedding party. Basically, Bully Ray says there's going to be a receipt for Taz, calls out Aces and Eights, begs Hulk Hogan to reinstate him, brings out Sting, says Sting, talk to Hulk. Sting does his little spiel, says, Hogan, let's reinstate this guy next week.
You'll do the right thing, Hulk.
Speaking of Hogan, our Thunder Lips count for the week. Goose eggs. 0 Thunder Lips. I like the fact that he wasn't on this show. It sells the injuries for last week. We don't need him on every show. We don't need him in every segment. And with a heavily promoted show, it helps to get the stories across with other people that aren't just Hulk Hogan.
Exactly. Next, we went to a little set behind us, or next. Sorry, everybody. We went to a segment backstage. It was Rude and Austin Aries, and they're both trying to pump each other up to face Hernandez.
It ends up being Bobby Roode versus Hernandez. They do it's a good match, and it was a shorter match. I thought it was solid. I liked the ending where basically Austin Aries distracts both Chavo and Hernandez, so Bobby Roode could win with the Bulldog.
Well, you gotta kind of keep the Hernandez matches short.
Yeah.
He's not, Aries, Daniels, or any of them. Exactly. You gotta cover up all their insignificant inabilities.
Deficiencies, Gio.
There you go.
Is that the word you were looking for?
That's the word I was looking for. Thanks, Mick. People I deal with. Fucking Bruce Jones.
Anyway, we all know that Gary's getting hooked on phonics for his birthday.
My birthday?
That's right, sucker. After the match, we had another in-ring segment. Kurt Angle comes down to the ring and basically calls out and runs down Mr.
Anderson.
I was doing a dramatic pause, you son of a bitch.
Anderson.
And Kurt says, let's fight next week on Open Fight Night. Anderson says, let's fight now. They start tussling. Anderson rolls out of the ring and gets away as soon as Kurt gets the upper hand. Kurt says, next week you're not going to be able to do that because we're going to have a steel cage match. If Teddy Long was there, what would have happened?
He's going to go one-on-one with The Undertaker or a tag team match. Either one, you never know. It's true. I like the pairing of these two. I like when Anderson first came into the company a while back. I like the little war they had with each other. I mean, didn't you like it?
I like it. I think they're good. They're two guys that could talk well, that could build a feud well, two guys that can wrestle pretty good. I think it's a good feud. And I think it's a good subplot to the Aces and Eights storyline.
Exactly.
Now, before we get into the main event, our question of the week last week was, does Christopher Daniels deserve a world title run? Now, before we do our answers, let's give you some answers from some of our friends. The first is from our friend Joshua Adams 1044. He put Fallen Angel for champ. Hell, he's put over everyone from Jeff Jarrett to CM Punk. One of the best talkers and workers in the business. I agree with him there. He makes a lot of really good points. Also, our friend Paul from over at the Deadly Sins. He put, Daniels definitely deserves a title run. They've kept him on the back burner for the title too long with bad gimmicks. Really solid points. And I don't think that either one of us is going to argue the point. We both think that Christopher Daniels deserves a world title. I'm pretty sure I could speak for Gary on this one. I know he's one of your favorite wrestlers in TNA, so I know you think he deserves it too.
Well, he brings the attention. He brings me to want to watch TNA.
Has he got to the point where it's almost like Mick Foley when Mick Foley won the world title, that he did so much by the time he won the world championship that you just felt great that this guy finally got the recognition?
Exactly. And, he's built up so many guys in the companies that he's worked before. You talk about CM Punk. He worked with CM Punk when he was green. AJ Styles, Kaz. The guys worked with all these guys to try to make them great. It's time for him to look great.
Even Samoa Joe, when they first had Samoa Joe brought in there. I definitely agree. I think he's long overdue a world championship run. I'd really like to see him be the guy that takes it off of Jeff Hardy.
Either one.
Either way.
Yeah.
Now, coming off of that, our question of the week for this week is, since Mr. Anderson and Taz are officially members of Aces and Eights, has your interest level raised in Aces and Eights, or are you still burnt out in them? Have they, we've talked about before where we thought they had run their course. Has the influx of the two new talkers, two new talents brought your interest level up? Let us know what you think. Hit us up on our Twitter. Put it on our Facebook. Put it down where?
Down there.
Right down in the comments. And we'll talk about that next week as our question of the week we discuss. Now, based off of our question of the week, the reason we had this week's was the main event this week. Christopher Daniels versus Jeff Hardy.
For the TNA Championship, or Impact Championship, whatever you want to call it.
I liked the match. I thought it was a good match. I thought it was well worked. I liked Kaz as the manager. His interaction in the match, I thought it was pretty good in that. I thought it was a good TV main event.
So do I. I liked it. They could have ended it a little bit different, with still Hardy getting over, but not clean, or some kind of, to build up the interest in a feud.
Exactly.
But who knows what they're going to do with it. But I was happy with the match. I think Daniels looked great. Hardy looked great. Altogether, I give that match of Hardy's past matches, it goes up there with him and Storm and Rude.
There you go. I did like it. I did like after the match, Taz left the announce table and came down the ramp and basically said he wanted to interview Hardy, which led to a Masked Aces and Eights member hitting Hardy in the back of the knee with a hammer, which is storyline-wise, the reason they're doing that is because for the next month, they're going to be in England, and Jeff Hardy's probation wouldn't let him leave the country. So they kept the world champion in America, and they had to build a story reason why he's not going to be on the show. They'll probably do some video segments or something, but the only detraction from that, if they knew ahead of time that Jeff couldn't make the trip, they should have gave it to Daniels. Daniels could have dropped right back to Hardy after this trip. But I think when you go to a country like England and you're doing showcase shows and you're wanting new fans to be gained, from what I understand, Impact in England is a really highly rated show there. It's more highly rated there than it is here. So send over your world champion to people that are watching your show. I think with them having a show there without having a world champion on there, it's going to hurt the product in the long run.
I agree with you. Like you said, have Daniels won it. He should have won it tonight and dropped it the first time they had television in America. Or at a house show. How much better would that have been if he had dropped it at a house show, no cameras, and Hardy comes out with a title, and then they could have built up another storyline off of that.
I mean, and I wouldn't want him to drop it that way, but that's your problem solver. That way you can promote World Heavyweight Champions. You can promote come see your World Champion, Christopher Daniels. It doesn't look like such a black eye that Jeff Hardy's not there. When the WWE goes overseas, John Cena or CM Punk or whoever the World Champion is at the time is with them, and he's in the main events. And they're showcasing that. Come see your World Champion. He's the champion of the world. Jeff Hardy is the champion of the United States because he can't go anywhere else.
Right, pretty much champion of Orlando until they... It's the only place where he goes over, really. You look 4 months back, 5 months back, when him versus Aries was in...
San Antonio?
Was that San Antonio.
Something like that.
I was either thinking there or Arizona, I can't remember. They were cheering the hell out of Aries and booing Hardy every move he could do. It just seems to me like the Impact Zone is Hardy country.
And you got a lot of the same fans come back every week, and a lot of them like Hardy, and that's their cup of tea. I mean, I'm not going to say nothing bad about it. If you like Jeff Hardy, that's your cup of tea. Personally, I think Christopher Daniels is a more deserving champion. Like I said, I would have liked to, at the very least, them give the belt to Daniels. The Aces and Eights could have cheated. Taz could have cheated. They could have did the same injury angle after the match so Hardy doesn't make the trip. Daniels could have came back to America, lost right back to Hardy, or he could have held it to the pay-per-view in a couple months. Then you got a main event that's been built up for 3 months. Daniels versus Hardy. Hardy wins the title back.
Exactly.
And you give Daniels not necessarily a receipt, but a recognition for all he's done for the company. I mean, look at a guy like Mick Foley. Everybody remembers Mick Foley's 3 title runs, but all 3 of them together are 90 days.
I thought it was 30 days.
It's short. Yeah. But you remember that because he deserved it. Just like this. If Daniels got a title run, even if it only lasted a month, you would remember it because he was so deserving of the title.
Totally agree with you. It sounds like someone else should be booking that show.
Probably me.
It'd been better than what's going on now. I mean, for the most part. I mean, I'm happy with a lot of things that are going on there. But like you said, I mean, you're kind of spitting in the face
of the
English.
British fans.
Exactly, like you said, that's their bread and butter right now, and they're really not giving them a champion. Like you said, how can you be a world champion when you can't leave your town?
Exactly.
You know.
Overall, what do you give the show?
I'm gonna go higher on it than you would think. I'm gonna give it a 4.
I'm giving it a 2.
Wow, usually you're lower than me or higher than me.
There's some things I liked. Like I said, storyline wise going forwards, I didn't like the non-title change. I didn't like that it was promo heavy and all the promos had the same thing. They could have tied all the promos into one. Everyone was basically the faces of the company versus aces and eights. Their matches weren't that great. Some of them were okay. Rude versus Hernandez, not a great match. Daniels versus Hardy was a good match. Tara versus Velvet, that was a good match. I've seen them have better. Ian and King versus RVD and York, decent match. Nothing to write home about though. The two shining factors, in my opinion, were Hogan not being on the show and Taz's opening promo. Other than that, this is. I mean, there's nothing. If you ask me in 2 weeks about this week's TNA Impact, that's the only thing I'm going to remember is Taz's opener.
That's why I gave it such a high rating, to be honest with you, because I was so impressed hearing Taz talk and shooting compared to, always, look at the chickies or whatever the hell he calls the lady wrestlers. The pigeons. You get tired of that. Yeah. Like if I watched Raw Monday night and Jerry Lawler cut old heel promos, I wouldn't care how good the show was. I'm just so impressed to hear it again. It's kind of a nostalgic thing. That's why I gave it such a high rating, to be honest with you. Plus, no Hogan.
That's why I gave it a 2. It would have been a 0 without it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, there's only one memorable thing coming out of the show to me, and that's that. But basically, that's all I got to say this week. Is there anything you need to ask?
That's it, my friend.
My name is George Coles.
Gary Rhodes.
And this has been Heel Heat.